Okay, so today's daf is daf Tesvav in Yebmot. We learn for Shlomo ben Rachel, for Yosef ben Chaim Michal, for Loz ben Ruma, and for Nomi, Rivka Bas Dina Shoshana. Yesterday we got down to the 11th line on daf Tesvav, and the discussion here is we know that Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai had various machlokas and throughout Shas, and here they had a serious machlokas. Is Saras Erva Osir to make Yibam? In other words, she's like an Erva herself, Shalom Mokum Mitzvah, and it would be an Isser of Eishes Ach. So again, if Reuven's married to Shimon's daughter and Reuven dies with no children, and Reuven had another wife, would Shimon, according to Beis Shammai, should perform Yibum or Chalitza on the other wife, on the Tzara? And according to Beis Hillel, it's forbidden. It would make a mamzer if you did that. So there's a serious machlok. So the question of Gemara yesterday was, well, we have Lo Siskarudu. How can you have different rules? It's like two different Torahs. They said, well, different places, it's okay. Or even two bezins in the same city, it's not a problem, Lo Siskarudu. But the question really is, if Beis Shammai followed their own psak, then we got a problem. They're making mamzerim according to Beis Hillel. So the Gemara said, well, we had different opinions. Did they follow their own psak or not? They disagreed in theory, but they always followed Beis Hillel. That was the discussion we were having. Can we prove that did Beis Shammai follow their own psak, even though there was a baskol and that said you go according to Beis Hillel, and Beis Hillel was the majority? What was the thing? What was the actual facts throughout history? Did Beis Shammai follow their own svaras or not? That's what we're trying still to prove. And we brought proofs back and forth, and we refuted them. Now we're at Tashma on line number 11 on Tesvav. Rav Tarfon said Rav Tarfon was a Talmud of Beis Shammai, and he said Te'avani. It's a strange lashon. It's Te'avani, like I wish. I would that Masai Tavot Saras Abbas Liyadi Ba'asana. His brother was married to his brother. Rav Tarfon's own brother was married to Rav Tarfon's daughter, and his brother had another wife. And he said, you know what? I'm hoping that one day when my brother dies, I can marry the Tzaras Abbas. I can marry his co. I can't marry my own daughter, that I know, right? But I hope that I'll be able to marry her. So what do you see from over here? That he was a Talmud Shammai, and he was hoping that one day his brother will die and he will marry the co-wife of his daughter, the other. Pardon? And if she shall, of course, we're always talking about when he dies. When he dies, there's no children, obviously. If there's children, everybody agrees that there's no yibum. I'm talking about dies with no children, and I hope I'll be able to marry her. So that's a proof that Beis Shammai followed their own svaras. I'm going to hope that my brother dies, I'll be able to marry her. If I marry her, that means that he's going to go like Beis Shammai. He's a Talmud Beis Shammai, and he's going to marry Tzaras Abbas, which according to Beis Hillel would be kares. And make a mamzer. So it's more an aim of a asiana. No. It doesn't mean that I'm going to marry her. I'll marry her off. I'll marry her off. So the Mefarshim say, well, what kind of a wish is that? I hope my brother dies one day with no children, obviously, and say he's already childless, and I'll marry off his wife to a guy in the street, right? To some guy in the street. I'm sure.
But it wouldn't matter if you had children.
No. No, if he had children, if his brother had children, there's no question of people. There's
no, that's what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a silly thing to say.
Yeah, but it has no meaning then.
That's right.
There's no meaning.
What he's saying.
No. Yes, it has no meaning then. If he has children, there's nothing. I hope he'll die. So why should? Let me ask him. So why would he hope that he should die?
In either case, why should he?
No. So the Farshim explain that what he's trying to say over here is one of them is going to die first, right? So why should you hope that your brother's going to die first? Why shouldn't you die first?
And why should you?
And
why should you hope?
Let me finish the point. Let me finish the point. Die without children is certainly a horrible thing. We're not talking about the issue of the children or not. He clearly didn't have any children. If he had children, there's nothing to talk about. If he had children, why would he hope that his brother should die first? That's really a disgusting thing.
But if he didn't have children, why should he marry her off to guy in the street? There's no need to guy in the street.
Right. The answer is to show that the law is like Beis Hillel. We can understand that. What did Beis Hillel? Beis Hillel says he dies without children. the tzara, not the daughter, the tzara should marry somebody in the street because there's no yibum over here. According to Beis Shammai, no, you should perform yibum or chalitza. So the answer to the question is, why would he hope that his brother should die first? The answer is he's hoping his brother die first, and he will marry her off. What's the answer? Not that he will marry her, but he will marry her off to show that the halacha is like Beis Hillel. Then you can understand why it's a good thing that one of them is going to die first anyway. So it's either me or my brother. So I'll tell you what, I hope my brother dies first, so I could demonstrate to everybody that the halacha is like Beis Hillel because I'm around. I'm still the Yavam. And if it would be a case of Yibam, according to Beis Shammai, I should marry her or give her chalitza, but I'm going to show that I'm going to marry her off to show that the halacha is like Beis Hillel. But if you're talking about a case where there were children, right, you bring up this case where there's children and there's no Yibam, why would he hope that his brother dies first? Is that a nice thing to say? Hey, brother, it's me and you. Let's hope you go first. That's a horrible thing. So we're talking clearly where there's no children. The point is he wants to show. Then you can understand what he's hoping. I'm hoping that my brother dies first so I can demonstrate that halacha is like Beis Hillel. One of us has to die first. If I die first, there's no purpose. Maybe he had children. Tarfon had children, right? But if he didn't have children, I'll demonstrate that. That's how it makes sense. In any case, there's no proof from over here. Did Beis Shammai follow their reasoning or not? Right? Doesn't mean anything. I'll marry off to show halacha is like Beis Hillel, and we don't like Beis Hillel. If he would marry her himself, or Tarfon said, I will marry her, that shows that Beis Shammai followed their psak. He was a Talmud Shammai, and he would have married her. If he would marry her, according to Beis Hillel, that's chorus. And I'm marrying her off. Oh, I'm marrying her off to the street to show that the halacha is like so. I for Tehavani Kamar. What about Tehavani? What about that? I will hope. Rabbi Yochanan Nuri said yesterday, well, listen, let's avoid this problem. Sarah Sabas, just give her chalitza. Just give her chalitza so you'll solve the problem according to everybody. You won't make any mamzerim. Beis Shammai won't make mamzerim according to Beis Hillel because he won't marry anything. And according to Beis Hillel, so the chalitza is miutar, but just do the chalitza to be yotzei. He says, no, we're not doing that. Rabbi Yochanan Nuri says, let's avoid the problem of Beis Shammai Beis Hillel and give everybody chalitza in a case like that. No. We want to show that halacha is like Beis Hillel. I'm marrying her off l'shuk without any yibum or chalitza to show halacha is like Beis Hillel. In any case, there's no proof here to our question of asu or lo asu. Did Beis Shammai follow their psak or not? Toshma.
I think the objections would be removed if we read matai as if rather than when.
Well, the word is te'av ani, right?
I would hope, or I would want. If she would come to Liadi, that I would, then
yeah, but it doesn't say
that you're giving makes sense.
Right. But he doesn't say it. He says te'avani matai halavai. Like I hope one day one of us has to die first. I hope he'll die so I can demonstrate the halacha like Beis Hillel. That answer makes more sense. By the way, Tashma, another story. Daughter of Bimbliel, Abba Achiv. Another case. You see, this is very common that people marry their nieces. It's very considered a mitzvah. That Gamliel's daughter was married to Gamliel's brother. His brother's name was Abba. Umeis below bottom. Again, he died with no children. The Yibam Gamliel es Sarasa. Gamliel made Yibam on the Tzara. Now, what does that show you? That he followed Beis Shammai's reasoning. That Shaskan halacha that way. But is Gamliel with Beis Shammai? Who was Gamliel anyway from the Talmidim of Beis Shammai? He wasn't a Talmud of Beis Shammai. He was from Beis Hillel. So how would he have done that anyway? Ella Shani Beach from Gamliel was different to islanders Habe. She was an islandess in which there's no case of Yibam. She doesn't form Yibam. Right? There's no Yibam there. And therefore, she is the Tzara Silas. We had before back on Yud Aleph on the days or Yud Beis on the days. The halacha we said at the top of Yud Beis on the days on Shabbos is Dafas Tzara Silas Muteres. Even if you knew you knew she was an islandess, but since islandess is potter, there's no Yibam. Like it says Asher Taylor, she can't have any children. So there was his own daughter was an islandess, and therefore it was like she was out of the parsha of Yibum, and therefore you could marry the tzara. So it had nothing to do with she wasn't the tzara of an erva because the islandess was not considered marriageable, not considered in the parsha of Yibum. It says more Medictani Sefer, but the Sefer there says Acharim Omer and Bita Shem Gamliel islandess Haisa. Others say over there that his daughter was an Smash Mechal Tanakam, Savalava, and Smash Tanakam holds she wasn't an islandess. If she wasn't an islandess, how could Gamliel perform Yibum on her tzara? The answer is the answer is Hikr Bavalo Hikr Ba'ikir Benai. Here's what we're talking about. We had a machlokas back before when is in our Mishnah, when a Mishnah says shenimtzu alos, that means she was found to be an alos. That means that it was a mekachto, so it was considered like it was never married. Married her thinking that she could have children. It turned out she was an island and she wasn't capable of having it. So the whole thing was mekachto. So it was considered there was no marriage. He wasn't married to the daughter. There was no co-wife. The only wife was the tzara. There was only one girl there. So that's the nafkamina over here. The Tanakama holds the Tanakama holds that the way Rashi explains it. They go to Rashi a little bit further up. Logos in Ella, Tanakama daft lo hikrba. He didn't know that she was. Hudavi mekachtos. Aval hikrba tzarasa asura. So therefore, the Tanakama held it over here. Yes, Ramulio's daughter turned out to be an islandess, but she didn't know that she was an islandess. When it turned out after she was an islandess, so his brother said, that's mekachtos. I was never married to her. Therefore, Ramulio could perform a yibum on the tzara because the daughter was not considered as being married to his brother at all because it was a mekachtos. The Seifa says hikrba, meaning according to the Tanakama, only because he didn't know, since Ramulio's brother didn't know that she was an alos, it was a mekachtos. But if hikrba, if he would have known, then it would have been usher to it because he married her knowing that she was an islandess, and it was a good marriage. And since she doesn't have yibum, there's the other one is also patu. Well, according to the second opinion, I feel hikrba, even if he knew that she was mutter diktani hoisa v'loktani nimtzas, because the Sefer says acher ma'omer and bitus alanis hoisa. What is that? And that's what we said according to the Psak. Even if the brother knew that she was an islandess, still you could perform even on the tzara of his daughter. Why? Because Rashi explained before Hilchas Tzaras back on Yud Beis Amidbeis Hilchas Tzaras Islandess Muteras Afilu Hikrba. Even if he knew. Even if the brother knew she was an islandess and went into, listen, I want to marry her anyway. I love her. I want to marry her anyway. I feel tzaras pito islandess. Why? Because, like Rashi explained there, when did the Torah asur tzaras erva b'makom mitzvah? But since the islandess is not even the belav erva nami lo chazi even, she's not roy for even without erva. Havit tzaras erva shlo makom mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah. In other words, it's only tzaras erva when it's makom mitzvah, meaning that there's a mitzvah to perform even on this girl. Let's say Reuven's married to Shimon's daughter, and of course, with no children. He dies with no children. Okay, so Shimon can't marry because it's an erva, and the co-wife is Saras erva. But let's say the brother Levi could perform yibum on the daughter, right? Because it's only a niece to him too. It's not a daughter. So it's not like so in that case, the tzara is a tzaras erva b'makom mitzvah. But in the case of an islandess, she's out of the parsha of yibum. There's no yibum on her. It's like she's a man. You don't perform yibum on a man on a man, right? She's like a man. You don't have yibum over there. And therefore, it's tzaras erva shelo b'makom mitzvah. It's right. The lav erva like chazal yibum. It's also tzaras erva shelo b'makom. There's no mitzvah over here, and therefore there's no. He's not tzara of an owl. So the answer to the question is, Rav Gamliel said, Gamliel married the tzara. The answer is that she wasn't the tzara of an erva of his daughter, because his daughter either wasn't considered married at all. It was a mekachtos, according to the first opinion. Mecca wasn't married to the brother at all because it was a mistake. He didn't know it was mekachtos. Or according to the second opinion, even if she was considered married, that she's not in the parsha of Yibam, and it's tzara serva shlov makom mitzvah. It's like the tzara of your mother who's married to some guy in the street, and the guy in the street goes, "You can marry the tzara because it's tzara serva shlov makom mitzvah." So that's one answer. Another answer is, one answer is that the difference is hikr bav lo hikr, but the difference in the narration and the Tanakam and the second Daf. Let's say, remember we had before in our Mishnah was mashma that what do we say? Let's say your brother who's married to the daughter, Reuben's married to Shimon's daughter, but he divorces her before he dies. Reuben divorces her, then you would perform tzara. So the question is if he divorced her before he died, or did he have to divorce her before he married the tzara? So they weren't co-wives at the same time. And here Rashi says, Tanakama, because the brother divorced his daughter before he died, even though he was married to the tzara at the time, tzara zuzu, muteras hol b'girishas erva, the substance he did divorce the daughter before he died. Therefore, when he died, the only one that fell yibam was the tzara, and he would marry her. Lacherim, since he married the tzara before the gerushin, she's still considered usher. Now the question is it kanas l'b'sof gerusha? Before back on Daf Yomi, we said it's a machlokes, or it's possible that everybody holds like our Mishnah, but our Mishnah it works both ways. That either girish or l'b'sof kanas and afilu kanas l'b'sof girish also there would be yibum there. So that would be kavnai. And then the reason is that Chayim say since it was kind of self-girish, there would be him, except for the fact that she's an islandess. You know, it could be the nafkamina to the ratio between Tanakama, and the second one is when the brother Ruvain, in this case Remuel's brother Abba, whatever his name was, married her, he made a t'nai. He said, I'm marrying you under certain condition. In condition, let's say that you don't have any moles, or that you have 6 toes or 5 toes, and it turned out she had 6 toes. So she had some sort of a blemish. So that's the question: is she considered married? Not Tanakama holds what that. Okay, that's you made a t'nai. The t'nai was you didn't fulfill the t'nai versus mekachtos, and he wasn't considered married to her at all, and therefore Remuel can marry the tzara of his daughter because it wasn't considered a marriage. Whereas the Seifa holds no, that a t'nai doesn't help for that kind of a thing. T'nai helps you make a deal with a money deal or something like that, but a deal over here, I'm only marrying on the condition that you don't have 6 toes, and then he performed beyond her. He consummated the marriage. It's considered that he's mochel that t'nai, and he would be considered married. The problem though is that she was an islandess, and therefore she's not considered capable of yibum, and therefore it's not tzaras erva. The tzara of the islandess is not tzaras erva malka mitzvah, but it's love malka mitzvah, and therefore Remuel could marry her. So therefore, in this case, again, it's not a proof that we go like that. Beis Shammai followed their sparas, because number one, Remuel wasn't a Talmud of Beis Shammai, and he didn't follow Beis Shammai by marrying the tsar of the erva, because it wasn't the tsar of an erva, because the erva, his daughter, Remuel's daughter, was an islandess. Masar Misharsha, another case, Masar Kiva. So let's prove it. Shaliket Esrog be'echad b'Shvat. Remuel harvested esrogim on the first day of Shvat. The first day of Shvat is the Rosh Hashanah for Ilano, according to Beis Shammai. According to Beis Hillel, it's Tu b'Shvat. So he did it on the first of Shvat, and he wasn't sure. V'nas v'nog bo beis yisurim. You know, if it's the second year of the Shemitah cycle, you give Meiser Rishon, Meiser Sheni. If it's the third year, you give Meiser Rishon and Meiser Ani. And he didn't. And what he did was he gave, like Misofik, he gave both. He gave Meiser Sheni as if it's the second year. If it's the second year, meaning Tu b'Shvat is the new year in another 15 days. And he also gave Meiser Ani as if it's the third year, as if today was the Rosh Hashanah. Right? So you see over here, you know, so he went both ways. He said to be Yotzei both, I'll do like Beis Shammai Misol. So you see over here that Beis Shammai did follow their own Piskei Halacha, and we see over here it's not just like we said yesterday, not only cases of our case of a tzara marrying a tzara's erva forming yibum, and it's all cases where Beis Shammai did from Beis Hillel. Do they follow their own psak or not? So you see they did it. The answer is no. No proof from here. Kiva Gamri stop it. Could be that we only go like Beis Hillel. Rabbi Kiva though wasn't sure. He forgot what was the machlokas. There's a machlokas. When is the new year for Ilanos? Is it echad b'Shvat or tu b'Shvat? He wasn't sure who said what. He wasn't sure if Beis Hillel said. He wanted to go like Beis Hillel, but he wasn't sure what Beis Hillel said. Did Beis Hillel said that Risha b'Shvat, Rosh Chodesh Shvat, or did he say tu b'Shvat? And therefore he did both ways. Masamar Zut, another case. Ma'aseh b'Yoda Kalosa Shel Shammai Azokain. Shammai Azokain's daughter-in-law gave birth. It was Sukkot's time. Upichas and Samaziva, and he broke through the roof of the ceiling of the house. The Sichel Gabi Mita Bishvil Cotton, and he made schach in that hole in the roof. He made schach so that the new baby should be in the mitzvah should have the mitzvah of sukkah, right? Shma mina asu, right? Like Shammai holds that a cotton who needs his mother still is chayiv in sukkah. And we know children should go into sukkah, you talmud them, but he holds a cotton chayiv sukkah, mashma that he did like Beis Shammai. The answer is hasam haroa omer lafushi avir kavet. There it's no proof, because there the person who sees it, in other words, it could very well be that Beis Shammai does not follow their rules, their own Piskei Halacha, if it looks like they're two Torahs. But over here, when you could be Yotzei their words without making it look like two Torahs, because here it's he's simply ventilating the room, put a hole in the roof to make it to ventilate the room. So therefore, it's no proof that in a case where it would look like two Torahs, like in the case of Yibam, that Beis Shammai followed their own svaras. Now, so here also the issue is that here brings up the issue, says what kind of a svaras to be machanach atinok, that the Shem says that it was just born right now. So the answer is it could be that some say that it was the cotton was actually bigger at this point. It wasn't right now. Loya Zatinik Shanot, but it gave birth and they were there. Then the children were there. There were other children there too. But it could also very well be that the reason is not because the child over here, the baby needs chinuch, show the baby that it's sukkah, but rather Teshvu Kain to do. You're supposed to live in the sukkah the way you do at your house with everybody around you. So he had to sit in that sukkah too. It wasn't he made a sukkah for the child, made a sukkah for himself too, but the family is supposed to be together there. So it could be that's how you explain this story. Okay, so, but again, you can't prove from over there that Beis Shammai would follow their own svaras in a case where it looked like two Torahs. Masa Mar Zutra. Maisa Beshukas, there was a story with the Yehu's trough. There was a place in Yerushalayim. It was a big mikveh in Yerushalayim. They called it Yehu's trough. That was his name. And the Kubala mikveh, and it had a hole in there attached to another mikveh, a kosher mikveh. They used to be matar everything in there. Meaning, it was a mikveh. How do you make a mikveh today? They have a rainwater 40 saw, and they attach it with hashaka to another one. So they used to have this mikveh. V'sholchu Beis Shammai sent for a chivu, and they made it bigger. Beis Shammai holds it's not enough just to have a little hole between the two mikvahs. You got to have the wall between them has to be mostly destroyed. You have to damage and knock out most of the wall. But we learned Beis Hillel mikvahs. How do you make a combination of mikvahs? It's enough just to have like the mouthpiece, like the spout of a leather bottle. In its diameter, and its circumference, like 2 fingers. Remember, we had this before. In Chagi, you put two fingers in, and if you could circle the 2 fingers around, that's good enough. So what do you see? Why did he paskin over here in this story? That there was a story with this trough, and they were matar everything there. And Beis Shammai said, and they made it bigger. So you see, they followed that. Beis Shammai did follow their own opinion in the machlokas. Shmamina also. The answer is no. Again, hasam haro omer lafush emayahu dekaved. It doesn't look like suited for Torah. The other person could just say that he made the hole bigger in order that the water should spread. To mix the water better. Therefore, it's no proof from over there. Did Beis Shammai follow their own piskei halacha or not? Toshma, another proof. In the second line on Amid Beis now. Remember, he was the son of Rav Tzadok. When I learned Torah in front of Rav Yochanan Nuri, I saw in the years of famine, he had only some dry bread and salt. He had nothing to eat. I told my father, Rav Tzadok, that this Rebbe has nothing to eat. He told me, go take him some olives. I took him some olives. He saw that they were moist. Now, the problem with moist olives are that they were wet, and if they're wet, they could be makabel tuma. And he says over there, according to Tosfos, he knew that Rabbi Yochanan knew that Rabbi Tzadok bought this barrel, whatever, from an Amoritz. And if the barrel was klicheres, it's not metame or rice on the outside, but maybe rabbanon it's tame. Whatever, he was concerned about tumah over here. He was concerned about tumah, or the suffix maybe, and Amoritz touched it, and he was worried that it was tame. Amrli einani yochel says, "Ma, I don't eat olives." In a nice way, he said, "I don't want any olives. Thank you. He didn't want to touch them." I went and I told my father Tzadok about this. Amrli lechamor, go tell him chavis nekubaisa. The barrel or the jug had a hole in the bottom. If you have a hole in the bottom, that indicates that you don't want that liquid. You don't want the liquid coming out. If you're not happy with the liquid, it's not machshul kabbalah. It's only if you're happy that the water or the liquid went on it. Here, there was a kubaisa. The leaves at the bottom of the junky olives stuffed up the hole. Utanan, we learned. If you have a barrel or a jug of pressed olives, you don't have to make a hole there at all. You don't have to make it at all. Why? Because he holds that the olive oil that seeps out of the juice, the olives, it's not machshul l'kabel tum. It's not like a water like the other drinks. It's not machshul l'kabel. But it says it's stricha l'naka. You have to put a hole there because that juice that comes out of the liquid that comes out of the olives is machshul l'kabel tum. Umodim, but they're modim even beisos modish in nikva. If you put a hole in there, indicating that you don't want that. You don't want the juice. You don't want it to go out. You want it to drip out. Bisatmu or shmarm, and the leaves stuffed it up. She told that story. The afal pisha Talmud Shammai hoya, and even though this Rabbi Yochanan Chorni was a Talmud of Shammai, kol masav lo asal kedivray Beis Hillel. He did only like Beis Hillel, meaning he was machmer, and he said that that the olive juice could could make it makabel tuma. And that's why he was worried about it. He says, okay, go tell him no, that there was a hole at the bottom and it got stuffed up, but you understand his concern. He went like Beis Hillel, Yamin Bishlam also. If you say what? That Beis Shammai followed their own svaras, Hain Rabuse, that's the Chiddush, that even though Rabbi Yochanan Churni was a Talmud of Beis Shammai, he still was machmer like Beis Hillel and said that if there's no hole in the jug, I got to worry about Tumah of the olives. Ela Iyam Lo also, if Beis Shammai didn't follow their own svaras, my Rabuse, what's the Chiddush? Even though he was a Talmud of Beis Shammai, he only went according to Beis Hillel. Everybody went according to Beis Hillel. Even Beis Shammai went according to Beis Hillel, if that's the case. And here the Gemara doesn't give an answer to it, indicating that Beis Shammai did follow their own svaras. If Beis Shammai followed their own svaras, so what do you do with the case of the mamzerim, etc., that Beis Shammai makes of the yavama, right? Of the tsaros erba. So in Hanami we said they had to keep records. You have to keep records. Who's a mamzer, who's not, who married, who, etc. That's how you'd have to understand it. So that's one proof that doesn't get answered. So it's a parent's mashma. It's not maybe the most solid proof. It's a proof of that Beis Shammai did follow their own svaras. Tashma, another case. Shalos Rabbi Shua, they asked Rabbi Yoshua. Remember this, Rabbi Shua. Tsaras Abbas Mao. What's the halach of Tsaras Abbas? In other words, Beis Hillel says Tsaras Abbas, like one of the first case of the 15 cases of our Mishnah, the first Mishnah, Tsaras Abbas, Potter, Mena Yibim Nachalitza, right? Tsaras Abbas Mao. Amaleh Machlokes B'Shamay Sil. Machlokes B'Shamay Sil. Could Beis Shammai Tsaras Abbas makes Yibim and Chalitza, and according to Beis Hillel not. The halacha kedivri me. So they asked Rabbi Shua, who's the halacha go like? What are you forcing me into this? What are you putting my head between two great mountains? Between a great machlokas and Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. You want me to paskin? You want me to tell you who we paskin like? I'm afraid they're going to crush my head. If I say that the halacha is like Beis Hillel, what does that mean? That the people that followed Beis Shammai made mamzerim because they said, right? But according to Beis Hillel, Tsaras Abbas is potter from Yibam. According to Beis Shammai, no, you perform Yibam Chalitza. In other words, you marry your deceased brother's, even though he was married to your daughter, you'd marry the co-wife. And according to Beis Hillel, that's a mamzer. So basically you're saying that if I tell you that Allah is like Beis Hillel, I'm calling a lot of people in Beis Shammai's congregation mamzerim. They're going to break my head, right? So I'm afraid the Meshavli mamzerim lekitli, they're going to kill me. Right, so that's what he says. You want me to answer that question? But I promise you, I give testimony. I'm going to tell you about two families in Yerushalayim, famous families. Mishpachas Beis Savum, that was their name. Mi ben Achmoy from that place. Mishpachas Beis Kaboy, mi ben Mekoshish from those places. Shehem b'nei Tsaros. They are the sons of Tsaros who married Lashuk, meaning they went like Beis Hillel. That the Tsaros don't perform Yibam. The Tsaros ever don't perform Yibam, but they marry Lashuk. Now, the B'nai Tsaros, they married the Nasu Lashuk, like Beis Hillel. Umehem Kohanim Gedolim, and they were Kohanim Gedolim out of there. They weren't, in other words, they're not Mamzerim according to everybody, right? They're not Mamzerim according to everybody, even according to Beis Shammai, they're not Mamzerim. According to Beis Hillel, they're allowed to marry Lashuk, but would you make them Kohanim Gedolim? That's what we're going to talk about. They shimshol mizbeach and they serve them mizbeach. So I can tell you, I don't want to paskin halacha Beis Hillel b'Shammai. If I say halacha is like Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai is going to kill me because I'm calling a lot of their people mamzerim. But I will tell you that there were some famous families in Yerushalayim who followed Beis Hillel, and the Tsaros Abbas, the Tsaros Erba did not perform Yibam and got married Lashuk, and there were Kahanim Gedolim from there. Yeah, Ishlama Asu. If Beis Shammai followed on, so it's the Kumas Yarni. So I'm afraid to say halacha Beis Hillel because Beis Shammai is going to kill me. Right. If Beis Shammai didn't follow their own svaras anyway, and what did they do? They just, let's say, did chalitza, or they followed Beis Hillel, Meir Lashuk. Am I concerning? Why are you afraid? And even if they did follow their own svaras, my misyareni, why is he afraid? I understand the Gemara says anyway, like parenthetically, why was he afraid? Because he's going to say the Ramzayim. This is Rabbi Yeshua. They asked Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua's opinion is that even in Chayve Koros, there's no mamzer. There's only a mamzer if it's chayve misas bezin, like if you slept with your mother or your daughter-in-law or your mother-in-law. But if you slept with your sister or your sister-in-law, your wife's sister, there's no mamzer there, even though it's chayv karas. And hinamidasu ma'amis yarni Amar B'Shua ein mamzer el mechayve misas bezin. That's what remember we had. Rabbi Kiva's opinion is there's a mamzer even for chayve lavin. Rabbi Shua's opinion is only a mamzer from chayve misas bezin. We go with the opinion that there's a mamzer from chayve from even chayve kares, and certainly misas bezin, which is more chomer. But the point is, Rabbi Shua, why was Rabbi Shua afraid that Beis Shammai is going to kill him? He didn't say that they should that they're mamzerim, because he owes a mamzers only from chayv misus bezin, not from chayv krisis. So the Gemara says, he's not a mamzer, that they wouldn't be mamzerim according to Rabbi Shua. The pogam mihavi, they would be tainted, like we said yesterday. Look at this almana. Ma almana, sheni sur nog bakol. Almana can't marry a Kohen Gadol. The only person she can't marry is a Kohen Gadol. She can marry a Kohen, she can't marry a Kohen Gadol. Ma sheni sur nog bakol. B'na pogam. If she marries a Kohen Gadol, the child is a pogam. He's considered a halal. Cannot marry. Is possible. Zushi sur shav bakol. Over here, this Sarah of the erva, she's also to marry anybody, right? Also married to anybody according to Beis Shammai. Certainly, she can't marry anybody. She has to have more chalitza. If she, or according to Beis Shammai, she's yibam l'shuk, she's over and alive. Certainly, she should make a pogum. So therefore, he's saying like this. Rabbi Shua is saying, I'm afraid to say loch like Beis Hillel because Beis Shammai is going to kill me. They're going to crush my head because I'm calling a lot of their kids pagumim. Even according to my shita, they're not mamzeir, but they're still pagumim. So the Gemara now asks, okay, so what do you see from over here? Here's another proof that they followed their own reasoning. If Beis Shammai didn't follow their own psak halacha, why was he afraid to say that halacha is like Beis Hillel? Everybody was going Beis Hillel anyway. The answer is here's another proof. Beis Shammai went everyone. But now the Gemara says, what's the story over here? Kabami nate tzaras. He asked, what was the tzara? We asked Rabbi Shua, the tzaras habas mao. Can she marry? Does he form yibam, or she marries l'shuk? The kapashat lay b'nei tzaras. And you ask him, what was his answer? What did he pass? And he says, I'm afraid to say the halacha like Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, who she used to marry, but I can tell you that the children who followed Beis Hillel, if they followed Beis Hillel, the children became Kohanim Gedolim and they served in the Beis Hamikdash, right? And if a kabash like b'nei tzaras, the answer is tarti kabar. He asked him both questions. He asked him tzaras mai. What's the halacha tzaras? Ve'im salom or tzaras Beis Hillel. If you tell me that tzaras can go like Beis Hillel, meaning that tzaras ever marries l'shuk without even more chalitza, there's no even more chalitza there. B'nei tzaros, the Beis Hillel, the b'nei tzaros, the Beis Hillel, the Beis Shammai mao. What would Beis Shammai hold they are? Now, what we say, what do you care what they are? What do you mao? My nafkamina. If you pass them Beis Hillel anyway, what do you care what Beis Shammai holds up? You pop what my nafkamina. Lemevshet vlad machsiku shasel Beis Hillel. Here's the point. If we say we pass them like Beis Hillel, that the Yavama, the Tzaras Erva marries Lashuk, Beis Shammai says you're not supposed to, right? What would Beis Shammai hold is the result of those children? What would the result of those children? It's a chayv elavim, right? It's a chalutza l'shuk. You're not supposed to marry, but it's a chayv elav. It's like a kohen marrying a grusha. It's a lav. It doesn't make a mamzer, except according to Bekiva, right? But it doesn't make mamzer. But with machminus to be poshet another lav of machzir grushasa mishanis beisol. What's machzir grushasa? Yisraelim. Yankel is married to Rivka, and he divorces her. She marries somebody else, gets divorced or widowed from that other guy. Can Yaakov take her back? If he takes her back, they're over an alav. Okay, but over an alav, what about those children? Are they also pagumim? So he says, that's nafkamina. Nafkamina levevshet vlad machzir so to Beis Hillel, according to Beis Hillel, that we paskin like. Mika mina and kavachomer. Do you say kavachomer? Mal manal the kohen gadol. Sheini sur shavakol. It's only usher to the kohen gadol, not to anybody else. Still b'na pagum. Her son is considered tainted. Zushi sur shavakol. Machzir applies to everybody. Any woman who's married to one guy, gets divorced, marries somebody else, gets widowed or divorced from the second guy, cannot go back to the first guy. That is just for all women. Shein shavakol. She can be ein adin. All husbands in all cases. Ein adin shabrak pagum. Certainly, her child should be considered tainted. Is that what you say? And therefore, even according to Beis Hillel, meaning we want to pass him. What are the b'nei tzaros? B'nei tzaros is which is an Israel lav. Yibam l'shuk is a lav. What do you say over there? Do you say over there that just like what a kavachomer, if an almana who marries a kohen gadol, right? Almana kohen gadol, where they're over on a lav, it's of almana lo tikach, they're over on a lav. And what do we say that the child is a pogum? So certainly. Any other case where it's shava bakol, where the same issue applies to all Jews, not just on almana to kohen gadol, but any Jew who divorces his wife cannot take her back after she was married to somebody else. So therefore, malka gadol shein shava bakol ba pogum zuse shava bakol. Here it's answer to everybody in case mashka so and it didn't shana pogum. Oh dilma, you could ask this: mala almana she atzimus chala sif me almana. You know why? Because on almana she herself it says lo yichal zar ba'amav, and amav is ishto, meaning when a kohen gadol marries an almana, and the same thing with a kohen, I think marrying a grusha, it says lo yichal zar, he shouldn't profane his children ba'amav in his nation, including his wife. She's also mechulela. She also, so for example, if she's machulelet, she can't marry a regular Kohen afterwards. Let's say this lady was an almana, right? She wasn't a grusha. She can't marry a Kohen Gadol. But if a Kohen Gadol marries her, he profanes her. She can't marry a Kohen either, a regular Kohen, even though she's not a grusha, right? She had some mischuleles. That's the question. So that was the question. As they asked two questions. What's halacha tzaras erva? Is it like Beis Hillel Beis Shammai says, I'm afraid to say that halacha is like Beis Hillel because Beis Shammai is going to kill me. Why are they going to kill me? Because I'm telling you that a lot of their kids then would be considered pagumim, let's say, even according to Shiur, if they're not mamzer and pagumim. And also, what's the halacha about those tzaras? So he said, are they pagumim or not? So that was his question. He says, do you say what would you say? What would be the halacha of the Bnei Tzaros? According to Beis Hillel, Bnei Tzaros are allowed to marry the shuk. There's nothing wrong with them. But according, what would Beis Shammai hold about that? And from there we could paskin machzir grushas Beis Hillel with any other case of a lav. If you're over on a lav and the kid's not a mamzer, but is the kid considered pogum or not? Do you say from Almana Kohen Gadol Kal V'chomer here also that the kid would be considered pogum, or is it different over there? Almana, she herself is mischalelas, but over here she's not mischalelas. Why? She's already divorced. Machzir grushas mishanisas already can't marry a Kohen because she's a gurusha. You marry divorce, so she's already mischalelas, and therefore you're not mischalelas, and therefore maybe the kids would not be considered pogum. But Amr Lahu and Yeshua answered, Saros misyariani. Saros, I'm afraid to answer. I don't want to answer your question, Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, because if I say Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai is going to kill me, right? B'nei Saros ani melecha, but the B'nei Saros I can give testimony to you that they were Kohanim Gedolim in Yerushalayim, and therefore they're not considered pogum. You might say B'nei Saros to Beis Hillel the Geboiso Yavi Pogumim. There ani melecha, but you might say, well, maybe the reason I'm telling you Kohanim Gedolim is because we passed them like Beis Hillel. That's why they were accepted. The answer is, the Farshim say that it's unlikely. If Beis Shammai would consider the B'nei Tzaros to be gumim, like we said from this Kal V'chomer, because they were over on a Yevama L'shuk, right? According to Beis Shammai, the B'nei Tzaros are Yevama L'shuk, right? Because they married L'shuk, and the kids it's over in a lav, so they're only they're pagum, let's say, right? B'nei Tzaros, so he's made them know that they're not pagumim. Why? Because they were Kohanim Gedolim in Yerushalayim. But maybe that's because we pass them like Beis Hillel. Maybe Beis Shammai would still hold their pagumim. The answer is, if Beis Shammai would hold their pagumim, they wouldn't have made them Kohanim Gedolim. Even though the halacha is not like that. That's the Tomer Ma Raya Meir Azul L'Bayis Shalu Shem Nei Shahocha Kebeis Shaloch Kebeis Hillel Lekachah Shom L'Kohanim Gedolim Avodas Beis Shammai Efshir Shmei Tzor Beis Hillel pagumim Bu'adin L'Flad Machzor Shasal Yesh Lo Mishloim Amirim Kohanim Gedolim Shlo Baratzim Beis Shammai Shafil Hillel Azak and Shehevi Alosel Azak Yasov. So Kolshken Shlo Yimanichem Asal Lahamid Kohen Gadol Shein Kashel Shidasam Mekan Lo Haya Arm Shir. But in other words, if Beis Shammai would have held that this kid is a pogum, then they wouldn't have allowed, even though the halach like Beis Hillel, they wouldn't have allowed. Beis Shammai would have prevented Beis Hillel from making him a Kohen Gadol. And according to Bielchem and Nuri, Shavlad Sar Beis Hillel pogum with Beis Shammai. Maybe it's like so you can't prove anything from there. But if you held that they were really the Kohanim Gedolim, then effectively saying that they're not considered pogum, because if they would be pogum, Beis Shammai wouldn't have allowed them to be elected the Kohen Gadol. All right, we'll pick it up here tomorrow. Mitzvah at the top of the daf. Have a good day.
I hear what the Lord is saying.